have you on Atlantic Television Network Blowout, which is a syndicated live program of the network where we hold conversation with special interest topics. We bring you news, events, and stories, and we do this through a correspondent report. We bring you expert opinions and stakeholders analysis. Today on the show, our first point of call, of course, is an ANCOS chat. Nigerian government cuts off power supplies to the Niger Republic. And then we'll move over to National Assembly, where the Senate commits to resolving issues leading to nationwide protests. And in court order, federal government files contempt proceedings against NLC, its affiliates. A nationwide protest, NLC to decide on suspension or continuation of protests Thursday. In Edo State, Obaseki offers 500 million monthly to. And then in nationwide protest, Port Harcourt refinery to commence production December 2023. We'll go over to Lagos State, where NMA embarks on indefinite strike over death of member. On Niger coup, ECOWAS defense chiefs meet in Abuja. Well, our guest for this morning is Dr. Wudi Patrick. He is a lecturer with the University of Port Harcourt, River State University, and we have Mezo Samson. He is a socio-political analyst. But stay with us. We'll bring you some news updates, and afterwards we'll get on to ANCOS chats. back on ATN's blowout, and now it's time for Anchor's chat. So last night, we read in the news that Nigerian government, that the ECOWAS that have made the first move in line with sanction threat to military coup in Nigeria, in Niger Republic, as Nigerian government cuts off power supplies to Niger Republic. So according to news reports, Niger's electricity company Nigelec said that on Wednesday, the cities of Marada, Zinda, and Niamey had power for just about an hour. Then it was switched off for 5 hours. The reports say power outages are unusual in Niger, which normally has regular and reliable supplies. Well, we recall that Niger Republic depends on Nigeria for 70% of its electricity supply generated from the Kanji Dam. Okay, let's talk about the impact of this, and then we can look at the sentimental aspect of it afterwards. Well, for those who have not been following, there's been a coup in Niger, where the democratically elected President Mohamed Bazoum was dethroned and detained by the military, the Nigerian military force, being led by Chiani, the military head, who has been the military head for about 11 years, or since 2011, I beg your pardon. However, that's not the main issue, because that is going on already. ECOWAS and AU have threatened severe sanctions and all of that, but that's including US, UK, and the West. Well, guess what? The East and Guinea-Bissau, Mali, and one of the African countries are also in support of the Niger coup. But they are not the only one. Nigerians themselves are also in support of the military takeover. And that might be a surprise, but well, it's not for the Nigerians, because they were the typical, when the righteous rules, the people rejoices, because if the sound of joy that ran through that republic was something that should send some kind of a disturbing wave, not shocking waves, in the minds of several persons. Why are these people rejoicing that the military took over power? Is it because the military are better leaders than the democratically elected leaders? Well, we really have we don't have detailed idea on all of that per se. However, the Nigerian coup is looking like a tussle between the East and the West, because Russia is on it. Was so learned that Wagner forces are also pledging support for them. I think 2 days ago we learned that France is making plans, or is evacuating their people from Niger. And then the US, as 2 days ago, is yet to, from the feelers I got in the news, is yet to make up their mind whether to evacuate their people or not. But that's what it is. There isn't really war per se, but it's just a military takeover, a change of administration from democratic administration to a military regime. But that's what the background of that story is. Now let's come to the crux of the conversation this morning, which is the fact that, well, they experienced somewhat of 5 hours power outage in some of the major cities yesterday. 5 hours. I don't know, the average Nigerian say just 5 hours, and this is in the news. Well, guess what? Yes, it's in the news. And why is that a big deal? It's a big deal because they rarely have power outage. Can you believe that? Well, this is an African country that where the 70% of the electricity they use is being supplied by Nigeria. The same Nigeria that I don't know. This could be very heartbreaking, but let's leave that at the end of it. But let's look at the core issues around the electricity power, the civilized society dependence on electricity generation and all of that. So this sanction by the ECOWAS and African Union and the West, and as the case may be, what exactly is in it? We Africans, we are watching this, we're trying to understand why it is such a big deal. I mean, are you sure that some Nigerians would not rejoice if the military should take over, even though we have heard all our lives that the best the worst democratic government administration or government is better than the military? But guess what? That may not be the case in some African countries. That may be difficult to swallow, but it is what it is. So if we are talking about this issue right now and how it impacts the poor electricity supply, that is how it affects the Nigerians, and then you're asking yourself, why are these sanctions being threatened? Because the ultimatum given by ECOWAS and EU for the Chiani to release Bazoum and hand over power to him was a 7-day ultimatum. So by today is Thursday, Friday, Saturday, that will be 7 days, because this was done on Sunday, or by Sunday becomes the 8th day, I don't know. But the thing is this: they have told you that they are not scared of the threats. That your threat of sanctions means nothing to them. That's the military, the Nigerian military. So now let's look at this side by side. Why exactly is the West threatening to take over a republic, or demanding that the republic should abide by what they are saying? Is it the lack of Hold on. Is it the lack of quality governance or leadership that the military can provide? Why are they insisting? Why are they interfering in the republic's issue? Let's get to understand this and see if it makes better sense. That's what I mean. Because if you look at all of this side by side, then begin to ask yourself, what is this threat about? Why are they not talking about mediation? Why are they not talking about having a meeting point between the military and the democratic governments themselves? Why is ECOWAS and African Union not coming together to say, okay, this is what has happened, this is where we can come in, and this is what can be done? Why are we not having that conversation? Why is this about military force? We are threatening military force. You're cutting off their electricity. What exactly is going on here? This country, as it is not at war. You want to exercise your dominance over a country, but when Mohammed Bazoum and co were leading the way they were leading, just like in Nigeria today, just like what Nigerians are experiencing, just like what most African countries experience, as a matter of fact, when it comes to democratically elected leaders in Africa. And now, what is the UN, for instance, doing about Nigeria? What is the US and co doing about the situation in Nigeria? Have you heard the words in the streets that the average Nigerian can barely feed? So you sit down, you do nothing. You allow these so-called democratically elected governors or leaders, as the case may be, do what they want, as they wish, with the people. And then when the military, just like in Niger Republic, now that the military have taken over, you're coming to rain down on them, and now your action is basically threatening the means of livelihood for the people. Because when you say you're cutting off power in Niger, who are you harming here? Is it the military leaders who have taken over power, or the millions of Nigerians whose life and means of livelihood you are attacking? What exactly is the Western African leaders attacking in Niger? Is it the military leaders, or you attacking Nigerians? What is with this sanction? Because if this is indeed about having the people, do what they need to do and all of that, then we should be having a conversation about what is and what is not. Because when you say you're cutting off power from Niger because the military took over, how realistic is that? I hope that the Western African Union, or ECOWAS as it is, can come up straight to tell the world why exactly they are attacking the people of Niger, because that is what it's beginning to look like. When you cut off power, you're not cutting off power from the military. You are cutting off power from the millions of Nigerians. And what is their crime in all of this? Why is the West, why is African Union not thinking of mediation as a way of coming to terms to understand the reasons why the military took over power, the complaints that the military have about corruption and mismanagement of the nation's resources? Why is that not important to the ECOWAS and the EU, the US and the UK, the West as they call themselves? Why are we having conversation about people who are actually happy that the military took over? What have you done since they've been complaining? Well, they have cut off their power. Who knows what else they're going to do to Nigerians? Because as far as we are, the observers, are concerned, You are attacking Nigerians. You are not attacking the military, because when you are cutting off power, when you are cutting off access into the country, making sure they don't fly into your countries and denying them of their funds and all of that, what you have primarily done is to say, Nigerians, we don't care about you. Whatever concerns you is not important to us. But when you think about it, I hope that the president and those who are responsible for this can hear our blowout point and anchors chart on this issue to say, you cannot in all fairness say you are denying people electricity and say you're doing that to the military. All of these sanctions is going to fall on the people of Nigerians, the population, a majority of Nigerians, and not the military. The military can always find their way, but what about the people? Because if there is 20% power in Niger, it's going to go to the government, and then the people are going to be the one who are the receiving end. I hope that African Union, President Mohamed Buhari, the ECOWAS chair, and all who are concerned can look at the human impact of their actions and begin to think of mediation as a better way to do this and not the threats that they are putting across. By the way, we learned that African military heads are in Nigeria. They are having a meeting. Hopefully we'll get the report on what that is all about. But that's much we can do on Anchor's chat. Stay with us. We'll be back to you after the break. right, good to have you on ATN Blowouts again. Now let's get into more conversations in the news. But before then, let's quickly welcome Professor Patrick Wiyok-Wigi. Good to have you on ATN Blowout today.
Good morning.
And so let's go on with the show, everyone. As the Nigerian Labour Congress NLC protest which began in Abuja yesterday, the leadership of the Nigerian Senate promised to resolve the lingering crisis between the federal government and the NLC. So the NLC rally that started from the Unity Fountain Abuja settled at the National Assembly complex, where the NLC and TUC presented their demands on issues concerning President Tinubu's economic policies, particularly the recent hike in petroleum pump price, which according to the NLC is responsible for the inflation, poverty and increase in unemployment in Nigeria. Our correspondent Rotimi Adewuyi reports that the NLC's message to the executive and the legislative arm of government is centered on the current and intensified hard times faced by many Nigerians. The NLC has accused the federal government of a total neglect of its citizens without some measure of control to provocations and consequences of its policies, especially on removal of fuel subsidy, though the federal government on its part have made promises which many Nigerians are still waiting for its realities to manifest. But the NLC, through its effort to negotiate, is not satisfied with the representation of the president in his chief of staff saying the initial 520 price of PMS, 420 naira price of PMS has not been resolved before the recent hike to 617 naira. The leadership of the Senate expressed willingness to be part of the negotiation and urged the NLC and the presidency to find permanent solution to the current challenges in the country. While speaking further, Alain Dume decried the non-performance situation of the nation's local refineries. We'll bring you those reports and come back to you.
The message of the Nigerian Labour Congress to the executive and the legislative arm of government is centered on the current and intensified hard times faced by many Nigerians. The NLC accused the federal government of a total neglect of its citizens without some measures to control the provocations and consequences of its policies, especially on the removal of fuel subsidy.
Ajero, as the NLC president, we are here to talk to our leaders, and we are no longer breathing. Our president in the 2 days ago told us that we should allow the poor to breathe. We are the poor, we are not breathing. All we are asking for is salary increments. A whole lot of 70 billion naira to the National Assembly. For what? When our salaries are very low, when we are suffering, you remove subsidy without palliative. You remove subsidy without salary increment. It is not acceptable. We are saying no to this. All we are saying, the government is telling us that they are going to bring in modalities to increase our salary. It is not enough. All we want is the salary increment now. We need it now. You cannot tell us tomorrow. You cannot tell us next tomorrow. Because when it comes to looting of money, it doesn't take 10 seconds. All we are saying is they should allow the poor to breathe. All we are saying is that they should do the needful to eliminate this poverty that is lavishing around us. We no longer send money to our loved ones because the salaries are very small. If that is the case, we should therefore go for salary harmonization. Every parastatals, every agency, every ministry should go to the same salary structure. But then, in absence of that, if that cannot be worked now, they should work on modalities. They should increase our salary. There is nothing again. And they should fix our refineries. Our refineries are not working. How can we be importing fuel? The same fuel we subsidize. The same fuel. We are suffering. We are suffering. We are suffering. Nigerians are suffering.
Though the federal government on its part have made promises which many Nigerians are still waiting for its realities to manifest, but the NLC, through its efforts to negotiate, said it's not satisfied with the representation of the president's chief of staff. It added that the initial 520 naira price of PMS has not been resolved before the recent hike to 617 naira.
Immediate reversal of all anti-poor policies of government, including the recent hike in PMS price, school fees and VAT. Now when we talk about recent hike, there was a hike of 520, 540, for which a committee was set up by the government, for which the government went to court and got injunction, for which the court announced that status quo should remain. And the court has not met between that time and now. 2 adjournments the court did not meet. And one of the parties went ahead to increase again to 617. That very issue, because we have not gone on strike for 617, and we are going to consider that option after now. Because the issue of strike and court order was all around 520, and we have not even addressed it. One party went ahead to increase again. So it's like saying, do fighting, stop fighting, and another person went ahead to give another blow. That is where we are today.
The leadership of the Senate expressed willingness to be part of the negotiation, urged the NLC and the presidency to find a permanent solution to the current challenges in the country. Speaking further, Ndume decried the non-performance situation of the nation's local refineries.
To implement what we have agreed. As I said, we have formed a committee. I have told the president now that between today and tomorrow, we will call the first meeting with the labor and start the discussion where they will brief you. And as I said, this discussion and engagement will continue, and we will do our best as your representative to come out with a solution acceptable to you and realistic enough.
It is not a strike yet. So we just want to inform you that what you have said, we are ready to engage. We are ready to meet. Even if it's midnight you call us, we are there. Even if it's weekend that you call us, we are there.
The dial has been cast, and the leadership of the Senate has promised to open conversation between the Labour Congress and the federal government with a view to resolving the current issues affecting Nigerians. From the National Assembly, Abuja, Rotimi Adewuyi, ATN News.
All right, thank you, Rotimi Adeoye, for that report. But it's time for blowouts, and we have just been joined by Doom Mezo Samson. Good to have you here today, Doom.
Thank you so much. Privilege as always.
All right, let's just have a general conversation on this. Let me start with you, Prof. So yesterday you saw the outcome in, this is Abuja. We had Lagos, Port Harcourt, and different cities in the country. Nigerians trooped out en masse for this protest, not a strike yet. Now, first of all, what do you think about NSC's ability to pull this off, even if it's going to be for, even if it's just going to be for one day?
First, I think NSC are supposed to follow the legal process of a strike, and at the point they are aware of that they didn't follow that, so they have to tend and take on the strike. A strike is normal anywhere in the world. And I know that
they call it protest.
Yes, a protest is normal anywhere in the world, and I think this protest will have something to do with a change of attitude from the side of government. I think so. Okay. They made the protest serious. Okay.
Doom, seeing the rate at which Nigerians trooped en masse into the street for this protest, do you think they should send like a warning sign to the government that all may not be well, that there could any trigger could get the people on the streets, and NSAS kind of thing may just be in the offing if nothing is done?
Well, I think this particular government is quite familiar with this kind of scenario. You know what happened during the NSAS. The current president was in the midst of all of the controversies, and he understands what it means. He has been a social crusader for a long time. So he understands what it means for the people of Nigeria to be out there on the street. He knows that Nigerians are resolute. And he understands that there's a lot of pain the people feel at this moment. And we've not yet gotten over the NSAS scenario. So there's a whole lot. People are still grappling to get justice on that situation. And people are not deterred to continue to make their case known to the public and to the president. So Mr. President, I feel, understands that, look, there is a looming danger out there if they do not nip this in the bud. And you cannot do it forcefully. This is a democracy, and Mr. President has always said he's a Democrat, and he cannot afford to act otherwise. So the best way to it is to negotiate and make all of the necessary compromises to ensure that there is peace and stability in the country.
Yeah, but Prof, putting all of this side by side, and we ask ourselves, couldn't the president and his handlers, the Nigerian government at the federal level, had done something to prevent all of this from happening in the first place, considering how long Labour has been asking them to do the needful?
For us, I think they had first engagement, TUC and the NLC from the beginning of his government. And the feelers we got was that there was a smooth playing ground for both parties. This other evolutions that come up here is something that is worrisome to all of us. However, I think Labour is on the right track. Government assured us that in 6 months, all the issues bordering on the policies will be resolved. And they begged Nigerians to have some more patience. And we are actually having the patience. But we're not seeing effort government is doing to address the issues. But because if government told Nigerians that 6 months, we're going to look at your matter. Nigerians, you know, we are very patient people. We will actually endure for them.
Yeah, but Zoom, the issue with this being patient is that we don't, like Labour is saying, we listen to the president Monday night, on a national broadcast, with all that has been going on. A lot of us, a lot of Nigerians expected to have specific directive on action plan. This is where we are, this is where we're going, these are the things we're going to see from in 2 days time. Immediately after this broadcast, this is what is going to happen, and all of that. The speech itself was vague. For instance, we know we should have over a trillion naira, about over a 2 trillion naira. If we look at June and July non-subsidy payments money, and you're telling us we have over 1 trillion. So it's like the more Nigerians were expecting something, nothing kept coming out of it, which was why Labour finally, after listening, they were in a meeting before this the broadcast, and after that they actually declared that, insisted that they are going on the strike, on the protest. So if the president had given Nigerians specifics in this 6 months time, for instance, do you think that Labour would have gone to the strike? Do you think Nigerians will understand with the president?
Well, it would have been really difficult to be able to say in the next 2 days, this is what we're going to do. In the next 1 week, this is what we're going to do. Mr. President tried his best to be able to assure Nigerians that in the shortest possible time, all of this would be over. He tried his best to say that. He said from now until next year, so period, we're going to release so amount to building of industries. We're going to release so amount to this, and he's tried his best. But we must understand that, look, this government is just about 2 months old, and I think that really you would not blame Nigerians for having so much expectation of this administration, because it's been one tumultuous scenario to the other. We grappled with the 8 years of President Buhari having nothing, and then almost into the election we had the Emefiele effect, and immediately after the election we had Mr. President announce the subsidy removal. So Nigerians have been in a consecutive period of pain, and there is so much, for that reason, so much is expected of this president to be done speedily, and if possible in seconds. But of course, these things are not rocket science. We must understand that Mr. President does not even have a sitting cabinet yet. So even if Mr. President says we're going to do this in 2 weeks or in 3 weeks, where is the minister to pursue these plans and programs to the latter? We must understand that there's got to be structures for this to be effectively carried out, and that is where we're lacking. But that is not to say that, look, Mr. President has done fairly so far and has done badly so far, because in the last dispensation we had President Buhari take about 6 months to be able to form his cabinet, and though the laws have changed now that, okay, the president ought to form his cabinet in 60 days, you know, but we must understand that a lot of these persons even coming on board do not, because it's a government of national unity. Look at the ministers. Some are from PDP, some from Accord, you know. Not every one of them were part of the policy formation of Mr. President. So they need to come on board and even understand what the plans and programs are of Mr. President to be able to run on it. So it wouldn't have made a lot of sense to those of us who are quite rational that Mr. President will tell us, okay, in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks, we're going to get this done. In 1 week, we're going to get this done. That would have been just plain to the gallery. But he was honest to say, okay, between this period and first quarter of next year, this is what we're going to achieve. And I think that what caused a lot of this chaos and the pain, because people would have been able to tolerate and endure this president in the next 3-4 months. But what caused this tough pain that is almost intolerable is because of the subsidy removal. That is what caused this biggest pain. Would have been able to tolerate Mr. President to settle down within 3-4 months. Okay? Removing the CBN governor would have been a lot of relief. So because of the Naira swap issue would have been resolved immediately. But this issue of subsidy, it is the one that touches Nigerians the most because everything we do revolves around fuel. We don't have any other source of energy. So everything we do, our cars are run by fuel. We don't have stable power supply. You have to get fuel to fuel your generator. You're running SMEs, you need power. The least POS business people do, you need to charge it. And the PHCN is not even consistent in power supply. So if you don't charge your POS, you can't even do your business where you get 100 naira per transaction at least. So everything revolves around this. And that is why Nigerians feel the greatest of pain. If we had had electricity fixed, we wouldn't have felt the pain so much. Because people will now say, okay, I'm going to, those who have money will resort to getting Tesla vehicles to charge their cars. Those who run SMEs will not have to bother so much about power supply to be able to do their business. But here and now, we're grappling so much. In fact, the power supply has even reduced. And someone was telling me the other day, if NEPA uses fuel to power their substation.
Yeah, I have also asked that question, because honestly, it doesn't make sense. And now, you're just finding out that, okay, they've cut off power from Niger Republic. Maybe they'll bring it back to us and make it better. But let's look at the sincerity of the federal government and the pursuit of palliatives, as the case may be, or at least, reducing the effects of the economic situation, present economic situation of Nigerians. So the federal government on Wednesday files a contempt proceeding against the Nigerian Labour Congress and affiliate unions for embarking on the nationwide protest against an existing exporting order by the National Industrial Court. The notice of contempt was signed by the senior registrar Balogun Olajide, tagged the notice of consequences of disobedience to order of court filed before the National Industrial Court in Abuja. Well, the notice being addressed to NLC President Joe Ajero, Deputy Presidents Audu Aruba, Prince Adeyanju Adewale, and Kabiru Sani, the General Secretary Manuel Uwaja, TUC President Engineer Festus Usifo, Scribe Chief Executive Nuhu Toro read, take notice that unless you obey the directions contained in the order of the National Industrial Court, Abuja, delivered by Honorable Justice Y. Anuwe, on June 5th, 2023, as per the attached and road order, you will be guilty of contempt of court and will be liable to be committed to prison. The federal government also attached a copy of the expletive order made by Justice Anuwe on June 5th, 2023, to the notice of the contempt proceeding forwarded to the NLC and TUC officials. The order further says, having therefore considered the totality of this application, I make the following order: as the defendant and respondents are hereby restrained from embarking on the planned industrial action or strike of any nature pending the hearing and the termination of the motion on notice dated June 5, 2023. It is ordered that the defendant, the respondent, be immediately served with originating processes in this suit. The motion on notice and the order of this court hereby made. The motion on notice is hereby fixed for hearing for June 19, 2023. The hearing notices to that effect shall be served on the defendant respondent along with other processes. Now, this was June 5th. There was supposed to be a hearing on the 19th of June, but that didn't happen. The first and second time the case was supposed to come out, it didn't come up. Now, NLC, through their legal counsel, Femi Falana, said there is no reason. They had this tussle between the Ministry of Justice, Permanent Secretary, and all of that, and they said that he never said they cannot go on a protest or rallies. The Nigerian workers cannot do that. But now, with the threat of prison and now the impact of what they are crying for as it affects the Nigerian public or Nigerian workers, as the case may be, why do you think the industrial court to some quarters is being used as a rod to beat the NLC and its executive to the corner to ensure that this protest doesn't go? Remember why this was coming out yesterday? They were also in a meeting with the president negotiating on the way forward.
Government is a representative of all of us here as Nigerians. Whatever behavior that is manifested in Abuja is the behavior that we share as Nigerians. And so there's some difference between us as parties. However, NLC, the labor union, have right within the confines of law to protest. And so I don't think there's any law.
That's the right that the industrial court is, clamping on the federal government.
They can't clamp on the right of protest, but they can clamp on the rights of industrial strike. The difference between strike and protest. Protest is a civil, demand on government. This is what we want. But a strike is when this negotiation process has failed, strike becomes an option. So in this case, the labor union has right to protest, and that is what they are doing.
Okay, now the line says that the defendant respondents are hereby restrained from embarking on the planned industrial action or strike of any nature, pending. Because yesterday, how do we differentiate this protest now and actual strike or industrial action? That's because a lot of banks were not open yesterday. A lot of people were, a lot of businesses. In fact, we learned that all you servicing the teams that had to down tools for this.
Fear of attacks from the NSAS. The NSAS protest also brought this. Some business people were affected. So there's a wide gap between protest and strike. Strike, it was the order is addressing, but protest, you and I can protest. Nobody can go to court and stop us from protesting, so long as the protest will not affect the life of members.
So how do you differentiate between that protest where people are afraid of coming out to do their businesses, because at the end of the day, businesses were shut down. People didn't really go to work. The civil servants didn't go to work.
I agree, because that's our nature. That is Nigerian nature, all of us.
Okay. So we cannot blame irrespective of what the industrial court is saying, we cannot blame the NLC on this. Never. Okay, let's get on with the conversation around the labor issue. We'll come to you now, Doom. If we are looking at industrial action or strike as a way of getting the government to do what they are supposed to do, and looking at where we are right now, there is a whole lot. Even the next conversation we're going to have, you discover that the government still doesn't seem to have their hand on anything. So if industrial action or protest, as the case may be, is a way of getting the government to act on, do what they should do for the people, why do you think the federal government is using the courts right now to see how to kind of clamp down on people protesting, as the case may be?
Well, I quite agree with Prof when he clearly says that protests, anybody is at liberty to do protest. It's not necessarily an industrial action, you would say, because strike is the actual industrial action. And getting the court involved, it's a legal process. Government has the right to go to court. The court would always be open to listen to government and listen to labor. But somehow in our polity, we have developed the craft of using the judiciary, as placing embargo on people's tendencies. And that's what governments over the years have always done. You see past administration, they rush to court, they get an order to halt or stay an action, and then that is tended to either perpetually keep people on that embargo, or create room for a negotiation. And as at this moment, you would say that the NLC is entrapped by that order because they cannot act in contempt of the court order. However, they had met with the president last night, and we are hoping that things will be resolved amicably, so that people get to be able to go through these tough times with some level of ease. What are the demands of labor? Labor is saying, look, it's either you revert your decision on subsidy removal, or you bring in measures that will curb the sufferings of Nigerians going through these hard times. And they had made a case for palliative, which the president had earlier conceded to. But Nigerians were revolting. Instead of giving us 8,000 naira, I think you should better fix the refineries so that we'll have the product readily available. But we must understand that fixing a refinery is not something that happens in a year. It's not something that happens in 2 years. You see how much it took Dangote to be able to build what he has. So it's not something that can come as an immediate plan. It can be for the long run. Yes, it can be for the long run. Refineries cannot be fixed in a year. It can be for the long run.
The president may have a magic wand on his hand because we need to get into that part of conversation. The outcome of yesterday's meeting.
He may not be able to do that. So I think what Labour is asking for is increment in salary, which cannot also be done immediately. Because of course, government has to seek for the funds, look for the funds, and be sure that they will be able to carry the weight of the wages of the entire civil servants across the country. So I think the government needs some time, but I also want to encourage Labour not to pedal down, because governments over the years have been proven to only respond to actions like this. Interesting times ahead.
Totally correct. So now, everybody, I'm sure you're wondering that yesterday meeting, the protest, Labour, because Labour literally shut down the National Assembly. They broke down the gate, went into the march straight to the upper chamber. Like, whatever you're doing there, that's not our business. But let's see. Let's see the meeting. The Nigerian Labour Congress, after its meeting with President Tinubu, says it will make its decision on the suspension or continuation of its protests against the effect of fuel subsidy known by Thursday, that's today. So, and also President Mr. Joe Ajero said that President Tinubu did not force them to suspend the industrial action. And he added that Tinubu is actually a pro-democracy activist, so he understands protests. So Ajero said he has expressed his position and made... You could see them on a handshake there. He has expressed his position and made some commitments which were taken side by side with what the Senate said. He said, we are taking it back to the office with our colleagues to review it and release a document on our next line of action. Ajero said no one person can call it off. That's why I say we will have to go back to the office so that we will look at it at the EXCO meeting. He said, and by today, the NLC will equally have the next meeting to look at the bigger picture. Well, speaking of calling off the strike and what comes with it, Prof, there is this idea of the NLC and TUC union leaders not being genuine with Nigerians. So some people are like this, they just want to shake the government to show that they can do something. So like they are genuinely willing to go the long haul, because we have seen protests in this country that lasted days and on end, that shook the government and shut down the country, that forced the government to do something. A lot of people like this NLC lead, this Labour Union leaders don't seem to have the mettle, the will to stand up to the government. Would you agree to that?
I do not agree. But for us, it's like a masquerade. It's like a masquerade. We watch it from afar. The actors know the point or thrust of discussion. I do not think leaders of Labour are that weak. I think they have spoken with the president and his maybe his technocrats, and they're giving them some assurance of a way forward. So since they are human, they have to listen to them. However, my concern here is the issue of money payments or increase of salary as one condition from Labour, for me, is out of place. Now, if you look at the economic theories relative to increase in salary, Nigerians are used to following public announcements on salary increase. The moment the traders know that workers' salary are being reviewed, every price of every product in the market will also jump. So we see at the same position. So the demand for a rise in pay is not actually genuine and having a palliative effect on the people. What I actually have wanted to discuss was government has taken a good decision about the subsidy removal, what government should have done is to move the fund to the states. Now, the issue of subsidy should have been discussed and implemented by states. For instance, I was so impressed when I read on the page of newspaper about 229 billion going to Delta, 168 to rivers, in that order. Now, 229 billion going to one state in 1 month. Our mentality has always been going to Abuja for help. What is the thinking process of the state government? Developing economies don't start from the federal. America did not develop from Washington, D.C. The country developed from states. There's a model that each state that have gotten the proceed from subsidy removal. It's a model they can implement to at least help the citizens in their respective states. If all the states do that, this pressure of going to Abuja will be somehow reduced. The states should be thinking, not only the government, federal government. Our states are not thinking. Now, you'll be shocked that this fund will go into, in the states, will go into a personal pocket as usual. And then they will now, the states will now, states that are not maybe connected to the party at the center, will now use it as a means of creating, disconnect among the people and the federal government. So that's what we've been doing over time, recycling the same attitude. So I think government, the states should now take it from government now. Now that they've seen, if anybody says that they've not seen the money from subsidy removal, then I would say something is wrong with all of us. Because I read it, because of the subsidy removal, this is how much that gone to the states. And the states should do something to help the people.
Okay, you see, now, Doom, while we are still on the issue of whether NLC will continue on the strike or not, to come back to that on the Port Harcourt refinery and issues that came out of that, asking if NLC have the mettle to actually hold on to their stands until government does the needful. I asked that because what Prof just said now is a critical part of the conversation. If you look at the demands that the NLC presented as a reason for the protest yesterday, or increase of salary, release of without salary for ASU over the 8-month salary unpaid salary, there is a court injunction on that. There is a court order on that which says no work, no pay. Now, why are we even bringing that into this? And now if you look at that and to also say the subsidy, the reversal of a pump price, which was as a result of subsidy removal. To a lot of people, these things are not realistic. Now, if the disbursement for the revenue generated from subsidy removal has been released to some states, shouldn't the NLC begin to crack down on the governors and all of that and begin to say, we need to see you do something? If we have the NLC executive take on each state to say, we are demanding this from you and we want to see you take action, here is our communique, agree to, or do something that is label-like to ensure that the governor sits up. Don't you think that this issue of subsidy removal and its impact on the people will go a long way if they decide to take such concise actions?
Well, I totally agree with you. And let me make this categorical statement. The NLC, of course, I am very sure they'll call off all of their plans today. You're going to hear it very soon. And that has become a tradition with us in this country. And I don't expect them to be very rigid. I expect them to give in to negotiations and make compromises in the best interest of the country. But the style and strategy of the NLC is becoming very regular and traditional. And over time, you would observe that the integrity of the NLC is dropping. And let me tell you what's going to happen soon, and I can be put on record. Very soon you're going to see the actual workers themselves begin to revolt against the leadership of NLC. Because over the years, we'll see that the NLC leadership have never been so true to their advocacy. And at some point, it looks as though they just get some kind of settlement and then they go back into their shell, haven't brought out the workers on the streets. So I'm thinking that, and I'm projecting or postulating or, or giving a prognosis that very soon you're going to see the workers of this country revolt against the NLC itself. And speaking about NLC in different states, yes, there's Labour Congress in every state. And it appears that at the state level, the leadership of NLC plays to an abysmal gallery. They are seeing what is happening. They are seeing what's happening in civil service. You're seeing that the state government is not taking the welfare of the workers seriously. You're seeing that some state secretary, they don't even have water running. You know, the basic essentials in an office are not provided. And there is NLC, and they are not saying anything. You only see them comply and come on the streets when the national says, okay, there's going to be a national protest. How about the responsibility given to you at your respective states to ensure the welfare of the workers in your state? You really would see that. You know, and for instance, look at Rivers State. You know, sorry, this is a national TV, but I want to take instance because I'm from Rivers. You look at, you go to the secretariat, Rivers State Secretariat, water is not running. You see the lifts, they are not working. And you have people working within the age 35 and mostly in their 60s, late 50s into 60s. And you expect them to climb 10-story building. The lift is not working for 8 years. And we have the NLC. They're not saying anything. You have employment in Rivers State clearly on a nepotic stance. You know, you don't know how people get into civil service. There's a public announcement that we're going to employ people, and then the next minute there are lists flying, shared based on partisan affiliation, and then others who are from the same state are disengaged, and then before you know it, Rivers State government says, oh, we have employed 15,000 workers. You don't know how they were employed. And you have the NLC, their mom. They're not saying anything. So over time, people are going to get tired of the leadership of the NLC over them. And what you're going to see very soon is that workers in this country are going to be the ones protesting against their leadership. And if that happens, we've gotten to a dead end. Because labor becomes weakened and government will not be at leverage to act and behave anyhow.
So still looking on the issues around the NLC, the federal government negotiation from the Senate and beyond, and of course the outcome of yesterday's meeting with the between the federal government and the labor union leaders. Well, they came out to say that this is part of the outcome where President Bola Tinubu assures organized labor that as part of his palliative plans, the Port Harcourt refinery will commence operations by December 2023. Good one. So the organized labor in a statement on Wednesday night following their meeting with President Tinubu said there are a series of promises which they agreed to return to the negotiations table. The national president of the Nigerian Labour Congress, Joe Ajaero, and Trade Union Congress, Festus Osifo, in the statement said it is pertinent to inform Nigerians that the underlined by the request of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Ahmed Bola Tinubu, to meet with the leadership of the NLC and TUC in a closed-door session. The engagement was fruitful. That immense mileage was obtained with regards to the issues that bogged down the work of the Presidential Committee on Subsidy Removal and necessitated the protest via. He committed to an immediate restructuring of the framework for engagement in line with inputs of the labor leaders. He let out a certainty that the Port Harcourt refinery will commence production by December this year. He pledged to ensure that agreement is reached on the wage award for Nigerian workers immediately. He promised to unveil a workable roadmap to the CNG alternative next week. On the strength of the President's pledge and commitment, we have decided to return to a new and reinvigorated dialogue process to allow for full implementation. Once again, we thank Nigerians while we wait for the government to fulfill its own part of the understanding, as agreed with His Excellency, the President.
This is a damn tool.
How come to you do? Okay. Prof, so that's the NLC and TUC. That's the outcome, and are they done?
Yeah.
Do you think the protest is done?
Just like I said from the beginning of my discussion, if representative of labor is part of the implementation team, I think that will be better. It's not just discussing with government and then you stay off and expect government to do it. I wasn't there at the table of negotiation, but if I were there, I would just leaders of labor should be part of government implementation team especially on the issue of refinery revamping. However, don't you think that even if we have Port Harcourt refinery rolling on by December, we'll see an issue regarding the hike in the price of the PMS. One of the reasons is simply because the policy of unifying a currency exchange rate is very critical. Now, when your economy is not productive and you run on the monopoly economy, now, and that monopoly economy is dollar sapping. Now, for every barrel of PMS you bring to Nigeria, you pay dollar. And that's where we say we have high demand for dollar. And in economics, the higher the demand for a commodity, are we there?
Yes.
The higher the price.
Yes.
So, since the exchange rate of dollar naira is at the market demand, it means that it will still affect pump price. It will still affect pump price because only Port Harcourt refinery cannot, refine enough for domestic consumption until we have the capacity to refine to domestic consumption. Then our demand for dollar, the exchange, to import more PMS will be reduced, and then the consequence will be in favor of Nigerians. So I think government should look at that. I like the position of the presidency about taking on the Port Harcourt refinery. In doing so, they should take on the Warri and also take on Kaduna. If we have the refineries working, let's assume that Dangote refinery will come on stream. Then we now know that at the domestic level, we can have enough PMS and the other products from the crude to service the economy. So what we will now do, the demand for dollar now will go off. Are you following? Maybe where we now spend our money is on capital project, machineries. That's just like get some things from China and some other economies to do agri. Because without getting those machines for agri, we can also expand the other diversification projects in other fields of endeavor. So,
all right, thank you, Prof. So here we are. You did say that even in 1 year, the refineries cannot come up. And you're not just the only one with that opinion. A lot of oil and gas experts have said it time without number that, listen, this is not going to work. Because they said as we speak, the Dangote refinery has no chance of coming up anytime soon because the pipes, the hose that is meant to carry the crude into the refinery for refining itself has not even been laid. Now that's a conversation for another day, but we were told by July, August, we're in August already, that the refinery should be up. But NNPC, nobody is hearing anything from Dangote and NNPC, but let's leave that on one side. Now this promise, you did say that, because I was saying that on his speech, the president's speech on Monday ought to have come, or Tuesday rather, ought to have come with specifics. So he seemed to have given them specifics here. The salary issue we will negotiate it in 1 week time. By December, Port Harcourt refinery will come into full production. Excuse me. What are the merits? The Buhari government for 8 years couldn't get the refinery, not even want to start working. What are the merits that this December thing is feasible? If this is one of the reasons why we are calling off the protest, I mean.
Well, I first agree with Prof that it won't solve the problem. If you ask me, I would prefer that we have modular refineries in operation. That would be the best way to solve this problem. Because with modular refineries, you may not necessarily need all of this laying of pipes, from one end to the other to connect the transfer of the crude to the various points of refining. So I feel that if we concede to modular refinery, we're going to have our PMS issues and several other associative issues be dealt with. So, but monopolizing the process, is what I have a concern with, and that's where we begin to question the sincerity of government. Why would you have NNPC alone, become the only option that we have? If we're going to fix the Port Harcourt refinery, what is the capacity of that refinery? Can it even meet the consumption of the South? If it wouldn't, it means that you can't even have this tell on the price of the product. Because you're going to, our dependency, a larger percentage of our dependency will be based on the importation of this product. So we're still stuck. The only thing you can say is that, okay, we know that our refinery is working, but to what optimal capacity? And okay, so if
the challenge, if you may, the challenge here is, what is the possibility? You can't just from nowhere, but a refinery, how is he going to do this magic? Is he a wand he's going to flip in the air and get all the spirit forces and angels and what have you to ensure that by December, this is August, how exactly is he going to, I'm coming to you, how exactly is he going to achieve that? Any idea?
I want to believe that Mr. President is well briefed by the GCEO of the NNPC. And I'm aware that the contract for the repairs of the Port Harcourt refinery has been on for a long time. Remember the immediate past Junior Minister of Petroleum, Timi Prisiva, had told us that this refinery would come on board some months back. And he personally said if it does not work, we should hold him accountable. But later we were told, we were given an excuse that importing the necessary equipment to be able to fix the refinery took quite some processes that were not envisaged. So if Mr. President is saying that this is going to work at December, I want to believe that those equipment are already on ground and they are working already. A refinery is not building a mud house. It's something that is very technical and requires a lot of care because you're dealing with an inflammable product. So I want to believe that that construction is on, and it's on that basis that Mr. President says December is feasible. I don't really agree to that.
Okay.
But
Prof, if, like I said, in 8 years, the Buhari government, with all the fund expended on the refineries, could not get one to be functional, at least the Port Harcourt refinery that we're sure we're actually refining and all of that years ago, if they could not get it back to a production state, and if this president, with all the clamor for what are you going to do, when is the refinery going to work, that's before this protest now, could not come up to tell Nigerians that you guys, by December, trust me, we're already working on it. The NNPC couldn't brief for this is the stage where we are. We're just at the finishing stage. We're actually at the testing stage. In a few months' time, if they could not give us all of this information, could it be that the pressure of the protests yesterday is the reason why this promise that looks like a great gift is being released to Nigerians?
Yes, I said it before, that protest is a strong instrument and is given value to discussion at the federal government side table. However, the more thing we have to understand, if we want to compare Buhari's government and Tinubu's government, even Labour leaders also confirmed to us here from your message that Tinubu is a pro-democracy advocate, right? And so if he is, it means that he believes in his wisdom to fix the system. So for me as a teacher, I think we should give him time. If he has given us a promise to get these things fixed, I think he will do that. But what we need to do is to give him time. If he fails, then we can now raise alarm. Labour should consistently put pressure. Because the more they talk, the more they go on the street, the more government listens. Dumi just mentioned when we started that the president was waiting for the assumption of office by the respective functional heads of different segments of the economy. That's the ministers. And as we speak, they are yet to mount the stables. Maybe when they do that, the president will not have who to give directive, take charge, and deliver this to us. For us, we also need to understand, without bias, that the Port Harcourt, Warri, and Kaduna refineries, they are already existing in what the facilities. Maybe what we need to do is to fix some things to get it wrong. They're not building a new refinery. They're not building a fresh refineries. They are just trying to fix these things up. And because of the nature of the Nigerian kind of corruption, these things have been going under hands of some political actors over time. Maybe Tinubu will do it right. Maybe we'll bring the right experts. Now, over the week, I had some experts who have been brought in from, is it Russia? to look at the refineries in Port Harcourt. So, and Kaduna, I think maybe this is the right time. I wouldn't say because Buhari failed that Tinubu will fail. Now, the fact that you boarded a bus from Port Harcourt to Lagos and the bus stopped in Warri doesn't mean that there won't be another bus to take you to Lagos. Let's us be expectant, and I think Tinubu will do something. So I don't know why I have this feeling that he will do something, but where I have some sneeze is where the people that constitute the cabinet, his ministers, that's what I'm having the issues.
Oh, well, we learned he's an astute politician, and then we wish him the very best. But let's quickly run through this. Edo State Governor Godwin Obaseki has offered 500 million naira palliative monthly to cushion the effect of subsidy removal to members of the organized labor union in Benin City in Edo State. Now, this is coming after workers' protest over the excruciating effect of the recent fuel subsidy removal, as well as a hike in goods and services in the market. The labor unions, which include Nigeria Labour Congress, Nigeria Union of Local Government Employees, Academic Staff Union of Universities, and National Union of Road Transport Workers, marched around the Civic Center through the popular Ring Road to the Edo State Secretariat building and terminated at Government House, calling for a reversal of the anti-poor policies. The protesters displayed different placards with various inscriptions such as "We demand the immediate reversal of all anti-poor policies of the government that have taken food out of the hands of the common man." They said our refineries are in comatose. They need government attention in fixing them. The Edo State NLC Chairman Comrade Odion Olaye said the removal of fuel subsidy has caused hardships to Nigerian workers and other citizens. While receiving the protesters, Governor Obaseki said his government will give 500 million naira to the poorest of the poor in order to lessen the sufferings occasioned by the fuel subsidy removal. All right, I'm handing over to you, Doom. Again, like I asked Prof, respect to the Port Harcourt refinery, and that's an announcement that it's coming up in December. Why it's coming now? Is this a pressure again, like the Edo State Governor offering 500 million? I'm wondering in my head, what is this going to do? Where is this going? How far will this go? How many professors is this going to pay? I'll consider number of higher institutions in this state, and then talk about the civil servants. And what is this going to do? How is this a way out of the quagmire? We're talking about billions that has been received by this state in the name of subsidy, money accrued from non-payment, the proceeds of non-payment of subsidy. So why are we talking about giving them? What is this going to do? Is this another gimmick to make the people feel like they care, the government care, when in actual sense it may be looking like something else?
Well, I think we're quite used to playing to the gallery, like I said, and that's what's trending. You're going to see people begin to make flamboyant promises and without even a plan. That's what Nigerian governments do, state governors do. They just declare figures, and there are no plans to it. I expect that the NLC in Edo State would go back to the negotiating table with the governor and then discuss in details this 500 million. For what duration are you releasing it? Very important to state that this 500 million will be, distributed in so and so measure in the next 2 weeks, and the next 1 month, and it's going to be a quarterly decision or quarterly expenditure, that we're going to make, or monthly expenditure we're going to make. But to just say we're going to give 500 million, what is that for? And to what? How are we spending it? Are we going to increase the worker salary, or this 500 million donated will be given to the Commissioner for Transport to make available buses to help the civil servants to go to work? So I think that it's not just enough to announce 500 million. We want to have the details. And this 500 million is not something that is inexhaustible. It's something that you can exhaust even on 2 or 3 items that has got to do with the issues of livelihood. So I expect that the governor would come up with detailed plan on how this money is going to be utilized. Are you giving it to labor to share amongst their members, or you're going to channel it through the civil service by way of increasing their salary, or you're going to provide buses for people to be able to go to work? free of charge. You know, so it's not just enough announcing 500 million. And to even say this, 500 million does not even have much value in our Nigerian economy anymore. You know, 500 million is just, in fact, people pay bribe to become ministers with billions. So to be able to sort out a state, you say you're bringing in 500 million, you need to clearly tell us, is this a first tranche of the money? Is it going to be released after 2 months or monthly or quarterly? I expect the governor to say so, and we need clear plans on how this money will be deployed. Else, we're just playing to the gallery. I expect that the governor will tell them, look, this is what federal government has sent to us, you know, to help us sort out the challenges of, you know, Edo State is a PDP state. And sometimes people get technically political on issues. I expect that the governor will say, okay, this is what has come to us from the federal government, and we intend to use it this way. And as a state, we intend to add so figures to what has come from the federal government. You know, that was not mentioned. It looked at Edo State governor is just taking that from their own revenue to help the workers without details on how it's going to be.
Yeah.
So I am not intrigued by it. I just feel this is playing to the gallery until they give us clear, convincing strategic plans on how this money will be deployed and how many trenches it will come. That's when we can take them serious. But summarily, that's just lip service being offered to the challenges.
All right, thank you, Doom. Prof, I'll come back to you, but let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're still looking on issue around strike, the Edo State part of it, and then we'll go over to the incident in Lagos State yesterday, because if we are talking about government being held responsible, labor unions, you knew that some of the lifts in this particular place where this young doctor was murdered yesterday, was killed yesterday at this lift, just like the Doom talked about the Port Harcourt secretariat that has been in Kamtos for so many years. And then if labor is about going to Abuja and attacking the president and making demands, then are we being serious in this country? We'll have all of this conversation after the break.
Hey, welcome to the StarTimes 35th anniversary celebration. To say thank you to every StarTimes family for being an integral part of our journey, StarTimes has decided to give you a price slash on decoders. Yes, we are slashing the price of our antenna decoder from 8,900 naira to 7,500 naira, and the dish decoder from 13,300 naira to 9,900 naira. But that's not all. Existing subscribers can recharge for 2 months on their current bouquet and get upgraded to the next higher bouquet. And if you recharge on the classic or super bouquet, you will receive a fantastic reward of extra 15 days of free viewing. You can enjoy our top local and international content. So, what are you waiting for? Quickly, visit any StarTimes outlet around you to recharge or buy your decoder between June 12th to August 31st to enjoy this fabulous offer. Wow! Yay! Let the celebration begin! StarTimes. Entertain your family.
Come back from that break. I mean, we had to pay some bills, you know, but we're still on Edo State. Prof, let me come to you right now. To the minds of the average man, the Edo State governor just wants to, Obaseki just wants to appear. It's like just create a mirage, make it look like something is there when in actual sense nothing is there. What do you think it could be the reason to offer this 500 million? What exactly is it going to do for the people of Edo State when in terms of people in public service, that is?
The message I read showed that he offered 500 million to labor. The money was not given monthly.
Yeah.
Maybe labor executive, you know, to bribe them so that they don't tell their members not to worry, we are coming. because 500 million has no, it doesn't even have any, even less significant impact on the people. So I don't know how the money is like when President Buhari gave out what we call traders money, 10,000 to every trader, and we just saw that on the page of newspapers. But where I come from, I don't think anybody got to River State and shared to anybody in my one or my tree market. So that's the way this thing will go. So I'm not actually worried or keen about 500 million. But it also shows the leadership that we have in our country. Now, for any nation to move forward, for any state to grow, the knowledge content of leaders must be different. We don't compare leadership, governance in other climes so that we can use that as a benchmark for driving our economy. We don't. We just come back from the village and we become governors and do things the way we feel, and that's why all this while we've been suffering. We have not got good leaders in this country, and that's why we have been failing. That's why we've been failing. States don't have good leaders, and the nation don't have good leaders. When we get good leaders, the last time I was here, I think I also discussed something about Rwanda. Rwanda got to a point that they were eating mud with salt from the sea for breakfast. But somebody came and said, no, we must stop this. And the current narrative changed in Rwanda. Today, their dollar, Rwanda currency, is fighting with the American dollar. Within a period of 10, 7, 8 years. That's what we call informed leadership. We've not got that here. We have, just like all of us here as Nigerians, we want to get quick money. So that's why we have Yahoo Yahoo. That's what we produce. That's also the Yahoo we produce in federal. We want to get seriously. That's what we are doing. He just mentioned that some people pay money to be minister. Is that not true? Now, if you pay money to be minister, what do you want the man who pay money to be minister do? So get his own share, what they call national cake. So we are yet to get governance. I think that's my take. Our government are not people oriented. They are looking at what they can get. They do sea worship. I think that's what we have.
Okay, let's look at something, a very sad one quickly. The Lagos State branch of Nigeria Medical Association have directed all medical doctors in the three government hospitals on Lagos Island to embark on an indefinite strike over the death of its member, Dr. Diaso Vuare. The NMA in a statement jointly signed by the chairman and secretary of NMA in the state, Dr. Benjamin Olowo Jebutu and Dr. Ajibowo Ismail, on Wednesday in Lagos, said the information they got was that she was trapped in the elevator for more than 40 minutes before she was rescued. We were also reliably informed that there was no blood available for resuscitation. And this has become a recurring issue as a result of the review by the government on the previous policy on blood donation. The NMA said to them, this was an avoidable death and it's unfortunate that it was allowed to happen. We are pained and we are mourning. We are well aware that this same elevator has been a source of problem for many years, during which several complaints had been made to all relevant agencies with no respite. NMA said it is very painful that at a time when the country is battling with unprecedented brain drain, a young colleague that would have been expected to attend to 6,000 Nigerians was allowed to die a needless death. So the NMA demands that all those found culpable in this matter, especially the General Manager of Lagos State Infrastructure Management Agency, Ms. Adenike Adekanbi, are all brought to justice. The union insists that only emergency services should be rendered for the next 5 days. They appeal to their colleagues to remain calm, as NMA Lagos State leadership is on top of the situation and will leave no stone unturned in ensuring that justice is not just served, but seen to have been served. Okay, this made me very sad yesterday, because like the story said, just like we're talking about state secretariat, right, River State secretariat right now, for years, this has been the occasion. Probably she was just tired that yesterday and so okay. You know, like the secretary, sometimes the lift works, sometimes in the River State, sometimes it doesn't work. So probably she was just and so okay, let me use, or maybe some people use, I don't know what to say, but the pictures that came out of this alone was so heartbreaking. Like, we're just praising Lagos state government and saying, oh, they have this. But when you see some of these things, you begin to ask yourself, what is going on with us? Is it that we don't have the money? Is it that we don't have the acumen to know what to do? Why are we like this? And again, Doom, what is this going to solve? The 5-day strike, what is it going to solve? How is this going to resolve the issues?
Well, I think I sympathize with the family. This is a painful loss, very painful, because we lost this young Nigerian doctor in the line of duty, and it's really embarrassing that we had to lose her in the way we did. I want to commend the NMA in Lagos for taking up a decision for their own. And of course, like we always say, if it's not this person today, it could be another tomorrow. It's quite embarrassing that someone would be entrapped in a lift for 40 minutes, 40 whole minutes. I mean, there's no way you're going to breathe. Where would you breathe from? You know, and I think we're too backward in this country.
Okay.
If Lagos state, which is the model to even the Nigerian states, if Lagos, which is a model to the Nigerian state, if you want to make reference of excellence in whatever format and whatever means, you're going to point out to Lagos first. We feel that even Lagos is the technology hub of Nigeria. And if we could have such an unfortunate scenario in Lagos, then you can imagine what will happen in Rivers that is quite primitive in its operation of governance and everything associated to it. So this is really unfortunate. I want to see the Lagos state government bring all that is responsible to book, because yes, this is a technology, it's a machine, it could fail, yes, but every machine has an emergency alternative. Every machine, especially a lift, there's supposed to be an alternative. Emergency alternative. You know how many minutes it takes for a lift to move from the first floor to the last floor? You know. And if the lift, just imagine 40 minutes. This is not 200-story building. No. Of course, it's not even 20-story building. So why should a lift not work for 40 minutes? Something that moved from its ground and it's proceeding and then stopped at some point, and then there are no persons monitoring to know that okay, something has happened, and then there's supposed to be an emergency measure to be able to ensure that this does not result to death. 40 minutes. And to even think that there were no blood available in the blood bank cases, even the most embarrassing of it all, because you know Lagos State is a densely populated place. There are a lot of Nigerians who are willing to donate blood to the blood bank of hospitals. How come we do not have blood, available to be able to resuscitate a doctor? If this can happen to a doctor, a medical doctor who is supposed to be attending to people, I'm trying to imagine what will happen to patients who have emergency cases, accident issues. What will happen to them? So it's really embarrassing. And I think that it will be in the interest of Nigerians and to the integrity of Lagos State government to ensure that whoever, those responsible, are brought to book, from the engineering company responsible for servicing and maintaining the lift, to the management of the secretariat, to the hospital, the doctors and its management of the hospital. Why wouldn't we have blood available in the blood bank to be able to attend to emergencies such as this? Especially for a staff, a working medical doctor in the hospital. So you can tell that a lot of lives would have been lost over the period because of this same situation. I mean, this is alarming and quite popular and loud because it's a medical doctor involved. Who knows what would have happened to ordinary Nigerians in the months and years past? So I think this is very serious and it's embarrassing. Lagos State was one of the best when we had the COVID circumstance in this country. They did very well. They were so organized, and we gave them a pass mark. In fact, Nigeria was given a pass mark by even WHO for their strategic approach towards COVID. And that accrues to the effort made from Lagos. So I am wondering now how that the same Lagos do not have sufficient blood in their their blood bank to be able to attend to such an emergency. And we had to lose such a valuable young medical professional, especially at this point where there's a flight of medical personnel out of this country, you know. And the ones we have, we cannot even take care of them. We cannot even provide an enabling working environment. This is not even about the salary. Nobody is even talking about the salary, what they earn, whether it's worthy of their effort or not. But the enabling working environment. We always say that if you want high productivity from a working staff, you should be able to create a high working environment, sophisticated working environment, which will enable them to perform. So I'm really disappointed. I feel so sad that one's destiny has just been cut short because of some kind of laxity, you know, some kind of lackadaisical attitude to people's duty. Well, Lagos State will not say they don't have money to be able to, maintain.
It can't be. It can't be. I don't agree. I don't think it has anything to do with money.
This is really embarrassing, and
it makes me really
Nigerians are looking up to Lagos State government to be able to come clean on this, and everybody involved must be brought to book. We cannot afford such level of negligence. You know?
Now, speaking of the negligence, Prof, I'm just imagining this being my sister. I'm just imagining the family of this young doctor. I'm just imagining all the efforts put in to see her. You see, when people on the street, Nigeria, they said, may Nigeria not happen to you. This is a typical case of may Nigeria not happen to you. You recall that during the Kaduna train attack too, that was how we lost another vibrant young doctor. And who, you know, the funny part, she made a tweet like, we're actually being attacked, and in so place. A lot of people took it for granted, Dr. Chinelo, and that's how we lost Dr. Chinelo. Why do you think that people? One, Miss Adenike was mentioned in the story as one of the persons responsible to see that this lift or the infrastructure development of the government of Lagos State is working at par, and they have been complaining about this for years. Why do you think that we are in this situation? Again, is it lack of the intellect, the acumen, or the nonchalance, or the lack of value for the lives of humans? What do you think we have such situation, as embarrassing and sad as it is?
Oh, this is industrial hazard, per se. It's workplace hazard. It comes like that once per time because of our nature. I'm not blaming government for negligence. Government has employed somebody, a tactician, to look after the lift. Maybe the man must have gone somewhere to drink or do something, and within this period, no other person available to assist. That would have caused that. So what they need to do, it has given us a lesson. What they need to do is to learn from that failure, and then ensure that they put all persons on guard and at their duty post. It also happened even in the UPTH. In emergency, you find when you drop somebody in UPTH in Port Harcourt, you beg nurses, you beg doctors to even take care of your patients. They will tell you, wait, we are coming. Even no matter the state of emergency, it's in all of us. So trading blames to only one side. Every day lecturers are being killed in their campus residence. Nobody has gone anywhere. It's a part of the kind of Nigerian that we find ourselves. And you expect doctors to go on strike because one person was key in a workplace hazard. Now that strike, they will go on. Also, a lot of people will die. One person have died. Their failure to attend to other patients will cause the death of more other persons that are coming. So they are in the humanitarian sector. It's unfortunate, all of us say it's unfortunate, but we shouldn't take it to the extreme, adding more trouble to it. They should not go on strike. They should give their service while the person responsible should be brought to book. Now, the issue of blood bank. There were certain times in Lut in Lagos. I live most times in Lagos. That you get to Lut and you see all kinds of blood types. But today, the attitude of Nigerians have changed. Now some people say they've not got money to eat. Talk more of donating blood to somebody to survive. So sometimes if you get to Lut, you have to bring your people from your house to come and donate blood before you can release blood to you. So it's our kind of nature. That's why we're saying government should think differently so that everybody becomes a part. See, when all citizens have a feeling of belongingness, now they feel recognized by government. So, and they will also sacrifice our government. But as I speak to you now, nobody is willing. It's a matter of stay on your own. Let me stay on my own. That's what is happening. So you cannot, no, there's nothing you can do to bring blood bank to anywhere, as I taught you now. Nothing you can do. But however, government should go further and to see how they can pay. Because for you to get blood, you pay to somebody. They should pay to get people to donate blood. Give them good sum of money to have blood to save life. That's what they should do.
Now, it's honestly sad that this is where we find ourselves. But if we're going to find a way out of the quagmire, and then what could be our responsibility as a people? We can blame Lisa Denike, who is supposed to fix the lift. We can blame what is it called now? We can blame anyone as a matter of fact. But we, the people, where does this leave us?
Well, I think everybody responsible for anything in any parastatal should be able to sit up. I would not be able to give a definition to how government will be able to monitor everyone within its workforce. But I think that every establishment has a work plan and a work document. And we have those who have oversight over people. And I think that government should proceed from this docile nature too. And we have governors who don't even move around. They don't even go to, they don't pay emergency visits to offices to know what's happening. You have commissioners who just sit in the comfort of their offices, move to the executive chambers, and that's all there is to what they do. So I think that people have to be proactive. You cannot have this kind of scenario happen in private companies. You will not have this happen in Shell. You will not have this happen in Chevron and Ajib. That's because they have people who are serious about their responsibilities.
Did you say Shell?
No, you rarely would have all of this happen.
They do. That's why I said this is Nigeria, June. As we speak, there is it's a 10-year-old boy 7 years ago who went in for surgery in Shell Arrow in Rivers State, and that this boy Chinazam Obi Emeka Okoli, they had a botched surgery. This boy right now is in the vegetative state. He's 17, he's in the vegetative state. And the Nigerian people keeps quiet. And that's what I'm asking. Beyond the government, okay, this is an ongoing case. The parents are staff of Shell, they are in court. The boy right now is basically, he cannot even feed properly, feed intravenously. That's how bad it is. So I'm asking, what is the responsibility of we the people? Because it's not just the Miss Adenike who should fix the lift. It's not just the parents, those who work in Shell, who knows, for instance, that Chinazam Emeka Okoli has this problem. People know that this is going on, but what is our responsibility as with the people?
The people, as we speak, are helpless.
But can't we make a demand?
They're helpless. Now, the people can speak when the mechanism of state is active.
Isn't that why the NLC, for instance, is going on protests?
Yes. Now, first, our laws should be active. Regulating apparatus must be active in the states, so that when you know that if you commit an offense, the law is there to take you.
So, but now, are there no laws that protect Nigerians from some of these things?
There are laws.
So who is demanding for this law to be implemented?
What the issue we have is about enforcement.
So somebody has got to make a demand. If the law is docile, it means that we the people are not making demand.
I think part of our problem is that we don't even have an ideology as a nation.
Okay.
You know, we don't have an ideology. And a society where citizens, there are no ideologies, it means that the conscience of citizens are dead. That's what it means.
As sad as,
what
as sad as it is.
Yes, what awakens,
that seems to be the fact.
What awakens the consciousness of a people is when you have a societal ideology, and we don't value lives here in this country.
And it cuts across board.
Yeah, we just wave off things. So I expect that there are human rights associations who should pick up issues like this and begin to fire upon them. And our judicial processes are very slow. Our justice system very slow.
Not slow. Not slow. They are not judiciary. So the issue of slowness.
So there's a whole lot we are grappling with as a nation.
May God help us. That is all we can rely on. Thank you, Professor Wogi, for being part of ATM Blowout today. Thank you, our very own Doom, for being part of
Always
Blowout.
a privilege. Thank you.
Thank you to everyone who has been following. But if you missed any part of the conversation, not to worry. The show was streamed live on our Facebook and YouTube and on our website and through the app. But you can catch up on our Facebook and YouTube pages if you miss any part of it. And that's Atlantic Television Network. On our website, we are atlanticnetwork.tv. And if you also want to watch us live, if you can't watch on the website, download our app ATN Live and you can watch us live anywhere you are in the world. And of course, do well to also follow us on our Twitter and Instagram and TikTok. So on X, we are Atlantic TV Net. On Instagram and TikTok, we're Atlantic TV Network 1. Do remember that peace and unity